Welcome to episode 3 of the Tony Mac Show. On today's show, we welcome CFL Hall of Famer Mike Pinball Clemons, 6-time Grey Cup champion with the Toronto Argos, 3 as a player, 1 as a coach, and 2 as an executive. We talk about his growing up in Florida, the way that he came into the CFL, and the impact that he has on youth of the world through the Mike Pinball Clemons Foundation. It's an amazing show, a super humble guy. You're going to love it. Episode 3. Let's go.
Coach, I'm excited to be on your show.
I'm so happy to have you
Yes.
here. And one of the funnest or most fun things that I did was being able to research who you were as a person, especially as I was growing up, being able to watch you play football. And I want to talk a little bit about your humble beginnings. Growing up with a single mother.
Well, if I can just respond to what you just said there, the most spectacular thing about me is how spectacular I'm not, right? And I really am a simple guy, and we'll go into that a little bit in terms of the upbringing. But I always say my greatest strength is I understand how important I'm not, and I mean that sincerely. When you get past yourself, you can actually do something decent in the world, and so. It is not so much what I did, but the fact that if I did, so can you, right? And I think that's the overwhelming message here, is because there's nothing particularly special about me.
Well, I love that, but I mean, when you go through everything, you've achieved a lot. You've done very well, coming from Florida. I kind of want to ask you a little bit, where did you grow up? How did you get into football?
Okay, so I grew up to a single parent in Florida. And when we say a single parent, it's overstated, really, because my dad he was the university intern at my mom's high school, and my mom was the prom queen. So this relationship wasn't necessarily supposed to happen, right? But it did, and I was the product of that relationship. My mom was only 18. She just finished high school. She had visions. She had designs to be a nurse, is what she wanted to be. And when she had me, she had to modify all of those things. But my dad, interestingly enough, paid for an administrative course for her. He wanted her to come over with him, which was about an hour, probably a 90-minute drive at that time. And she didn't want his family, because at the time, if you can take yourself back to the mid-'60s, there weren't necessarily a lot of men of color who had university degrees, right? And so that was a big thing. He was a university graduate, and she didn't want his family to feel like she was hanging on to him. She didn't want to go over and stay there. So she wanted to do it on her own. He did pay for an admin course for her. And interestingly enough, the city of Dunedin, where our Blue Jays train, right? She was the first person of color to work in an administrative position for the city of Dunedin. To that point, everyone had worked in positions that were out in the field, parks and rec, that kind of thing. And all of those jobs are wonderful and great, but no one had worked in an administrative kind of position. She became the receptionist. She did that and within 5 years, she became the supervisor of the utility billings department. And she did that for another 33 years, right? So she worked 38 years for the city of Dunedin, retired now, happy, doing well, healthy, and so just so excited about that. But I do say that my dad gets a bad rap there, and yes, my mom did raise me on her own, right? He wasn't necessarily there, but the reason he wasn't there was because he didn't have to be, right? Growing up in a compromised situation or marginalized, however you want to classify it, right? Has some challenges, but it also teaches you some things. I had the upper hand on a lot of guys because it taught me how to fight. It taught me how to live without. It I found in it a richness that you don't get in other neighborhoods, because there was a togetherness, a closeness. There's almost this rallying cry when you don't have, right, where you come together, and there's this a stronger sense of community, of brotherhood, sisterhood, and so there were so many wonderful things that I got out of it, and truly my wife and I worry about our kids more than us, because we came away with a natural desire to do better, to be better, to get better, to learn, to grow. All of these things sort of came out of what were healthy homes. Right. Yeah. We both came out of very healthy homes, but marginalized community. Right. And so I do want to say that when we talk about the single parent, for me, it really is overrated. I never thought of myself as poor, right? Because we had love in the home. We had everything we need. We had something to eat. My great-great-grandmother outlived my grandmother and great-grandmother. My mom's mom died when she was only 5. Her grandmother died at 7. So she was raised by her great-grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, who went blind around the time I was born. So at 18 years old, she had an amazing responsibility, but she didn't make excuses. As I said, my dad helped her to kind of, with this opportunity to get this admin, and they came to one of the leaders of the community and said, we're looking to hire someone on in an office position. And he says, well, there's this young girl that you'll love, and she actually just finished this admin course, and so I think that would be a great start, a great opportunity.
And all the dots kind of lined up at that point, and
they did.
And it was good. Now, how did you get involved in football?
So, Coach, I grew up in Florida. So, I mean, football is what you do there. It's like playing hockey in Canada, right? So football is our game. I mean, baseball, yes, we do love baseball, and certainly lots of basketball and other things happen in Florida. It is one of the it's an athlete's breeding ground. Not because we're more special, but because our weather's so good that we train 12 months a year, right? So I think people have kind of figured that part out, but. My love for football, it goes back as far as I can remember, right? We were kids, playing what we call kill the carry. You throw the ball up and whoever catches it, everybody else kills them, right? And so that's where I learned how to run. And just being the littlest guy and not wanting to get hit is kind of how I call myself a glorified coward. I ran from people for a living. That was my job. But growing up there, I always wanted to play. And when I was 8 years old, you had to be 8 to play. And
so that's your first organized?
First organized football, 8 years old. My mom takes me to register, and the person just says, he has to be 8, right, in order to, to play. And she said he is 8, right? And it's like, well, maybe you should bring him back a little later, right? And so, but I did register at 8 years old, and by the time I was 11, I already had my jersey retired in a local restaurant, so I could always run.
And what was the team that you played for? Your first team?
The Dunedin Golden Eagles. Yeah, so the black.
Are they still around?
They are in some format. I'm not sure exactly how they exist, if they're still called the Golden Eagles or not, but but the Dunedin Golden Eagles was my first start. Our high school team is called the Falcons, and so Dunedin Falcons, and so I don't know if they've adopted the Falcons name now, or they still hold on to the Dunedin Golden Eagles.
So you go through elementary school, you get into high school. Mm-hmm. Did you know you were going to be a football player?
It was actually in high school where the doubt began to enter in. So when I was entering high school, I was 5'2" and a strapping 125 pounds. And I thought at that point, because, you hear all the things, The first time I actually had any level of injury was the year before. In grade 8, we actually played. It was outside of school, but it was my grade 8 year. I broke my collarbone. And so the talk of, he was good at that age. Guys are bigger now. I was 5'2" and 125 pounds. The biggest guy on our team was a guy named Big Mo. Big Mo was only 6 foot tall, but he was 280 pounds, right? And like playing with guys like that, you're going to get killed because the big guys weren't allowed to play when I was younger, right? Okay. Now they intersperse them a little bit earlier, but there's a weight restriction at the younger level. So the really big guys don't play.
They got to play up with their own weight.
They have to play up, and then there becomes a point where a year or two they actually have to sit out because there is no place for them to play, right? Because they're too heavy. And so so the real big guys, the real guys who thrive at that next level, we're going to have to play against them now. And kind of wasn't sure, tried out for the junior varsity team, became a starter, started both ways, was invited up to the varsity team the end of that freshman year. And something sort of, one of those pivotal times, you have these things that happen. Well, they brought me up to the varsity team because our team made it to the championship for the first time. We won. We took first place, and we were going to the state playoffs, right? And so that week they had all of these drills, and they interspersed us in the drills. And they used to have these Oklahoma drills, they used to call them. So you'd actually have to have your laying down with your back turned, and then you turn over and you pick up the ball and run, where they'd have 2 guys that were blocking for you, and then they'd have 2 guys and a linebacker on the other side, and I was going against the dude, right, and on the varsity team, right, that this is the big guy.
This is his team.
Yes, this is his team. It's his defense, and amazing player, and I got a little bit of butterflies, and I turn over, grab the ball, and I start to run. I make a cut, and he's there, and bam, right, and I bounced off him, and I scored, right, and everybody went crazy, and I'm like,
He's saying, hold on, let's do this again.
Yeah. So no, actually, he was like props, little
he was
man.
happy.
Yeah, little guy, he was really happy. So these are grade 12, I'm grade 9, right? And I'm a miniature grade 9, and he's a big grade 12. And so that happened, and oddly enough, a similar story happened when I first came to Canada in a goal line scrimmage. Sort of the same kind of thing happened, and one of those pivotal confidence points, I think.
That's good. Now you go off to college, have an amazing career, and just kind of take us through college a little bit, and then into completing college. Yeah. Kind of what's going through your mind when you're realizing, hold on, I'm going to play football.
So went to the College of William and Mary in Virginia, which says that again. So I didn't think I could play at the high school level. I really wasn't sure. I wasn't confident. Got through, and then everybody was saying, well, he'll never be able to play at the next level. So I went to more of an academic school called the College of William and Mary, second oldest school behind Harvard. But what that says is I didn't think, in my mind, either A, that I could play at the next level, or B, they would give me an opportunity to.
So is this choice of school an academic choice at the point?
It is an academic choice. And my first summer, so first year went well, and one of the only freshman, I think, on offense to play. There was one other freshman on defense that played. And so did kind of get in and got my first touchdown at the University of North Carolina when Michael Jordan was there. And I don't know if he was watching, but...
we'll pretend he was there.
Yeah. So it was their homecoming game, and so I was a freshman on the team, and ended up.
How many games into the season is that?
That was game 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So at the time, we actually, when I scored the touchdown, we actually went up 21-10. right? They're number 3 in the nation. And, we're their homecoming game. The final score was actually 51-21. So we didn't score
you didn't score again.
Yeah. So
but you were happy.
Yeah.
You got that touchdown. So that's under your belt now.
Yeah. So got the first one in. And, but that the year was a success. Right. Came home. My mom working at the city of Dunedin, still, had a friend of hers, theirs husband worked for Honeywell, got into a leadership program at Honeywell, graded out over 90%, right? They brought me back every summer. So I had a job now every summer. This was really cool. And they were going to pay for me to get my MBA. So I had life kind of figured out, and we were kind of moving along. And
so your pressure's really off your back, and you're going to school. You got things set up.
That's right.
And you're just playing football at this time.
We're playing football. We're going to school, and really just that mindset is this is what I'll be doing later. I got a chance the first year to work on the hand and flight controls for the space shuttle. Right, it's sort of one of the projects that we had, and then after that, the next 2 years, I worked on an unmanned space vehicle called Space Shuttle Centaur, and so really cool, kind of getting a chance to get in there and do something.
You go back to school and tell people you're doing that. Like, you're not working with people going to space.
Well, when you get back.
No one believes you.
No, well, you're not bragging about that kind of stuff. It's not. It's not a.
It's something that sounds very impressive now.
I got a job, and so we, not trying to. We're buddies. We don't try to one up each other, and so.
So are you still working out at night and still staying in shape, or is this?
Yeah. So I work from 8 to about 4. 4 or 4:30, I think, was the timing, and then I'd come home and I'd play basketball to stay in shape. That was my thing. I'd get out there and run for about 90 minutes and get up and down. And I love to play defense because if I could beat the person to the spot, then when it came time for when I'm making the decisions, right, I definitely should be able to have the upper edge.
To counter it.
So the idea is always beat the guy to the spot. So just defense is what I did. I mean, offense, I could push the ball up the court pretty well, but I wasn't the strongest offensive asset. Right. Yes. So
nowadays there is no defense. You'd be the first pick right now.
Yes.
So you graduate, and tell us what's happening from a standpoint of football now.
So going into my senior year, the head coach alerted me that there were some teams that were interested, and I kind of said, I didn't think they were going to be serious, and I was like, I got a job working at Honeywell. I'm not really interested, right? And the same thing happens I get the invite to the combine. Right. And the guy calls and says, hey, listen, you haven't sent your information in. I'm from the combine, And I says, well, I'm not coming. And he says, what do you mean? I says, well, the last game I got hurt. I haven't run since. We went to the 1AA playoffs. I got injured, knee injury, sprained knee, just kind of felt awkward and wobbly, and never had a knee, and that was kind of a crazy feeling. Had never hurt a knee before, and kind of a crazy feeling. And I said, like, yeah, I'm just not coming. He says, what do you mean? And so he goes on to try to convince me that I should be coming to the combine, and I was like, I already got a job. I mean, the guy's not going to take me serious. And so he got me some wine and cheese and convinced me to. As I'm whining here, he convinced me that I should come. And so I did. And from a skills standpoint, they said that I graded out number 1 of all the running backs. Now, there were guys who were faster, guys who were bigger, guys who were stronger. But when it came to the skills, the cutting, I was the guy that they used for all of all the examples. Okay, this is how you do this drill. This is how you end up catching the ball, all of those kinds of things. So I actually became the demonstrator of all the drills and ended up being a late round choice. I didn't think that would happen, but became a late round round pick. How serious was I about it? I was so serious about it that I played soccer during the spring rather than working out for football, because I still thought that I'd be coming back, finishing my degree and playing soccer in my last season. So I thought that's what I was going to be doing. And so I was, this dedicated athlete that was not really dedicated to a sport, just playing a sport is what I was more dedicated to, and just having fun. But it worked out.
And who picked you?
The Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, I was 8th round selection. I'm not even sure. I think they end at the 7th round now, right? But,
hey, you still to hear your name and to go. So you go into training camp with them?
Go into training camp with them, and the very first mini camp kind of turned some heads. The first preseason game, we did the Hall of Fame game, did some pretty good things, and had already, the trainer, a lot of times the trainers have the inside information. They get the scoop. Give him a couple player of extra cleats, right? So they get you when you start to get to the point where they know you're going to make the team, right? They get the trainer to kind of give you the other little things. I don't know if it's the same today, but in that instance, he was kind of the one who apprised me that I was on good grounds, and we had pretty good relationship. And but I did turn an ankle, and was kind of a little bit wobbly the first couple of games. Then we go on strike, right? And so that was the last strike in '87, and so it was a little bit awkward. The year was then the ankle healed up fine, and I was doing good when we came back from the strike, but I was really a third down back and a punt returner, and so didn't really get a chance to be a full-time back. I was more of a specialist. And then right before we were going to play the Raiders, one of the linebackers on shell day, we got no pads on, right? Just day before practice, I got a knee in the thigh and got a deep thigh bruise and missed the last 3 games. And so at that point, they wanted me to stay to their off-season program. I told my mom that I was going to finish school. The first thing she said when I got drafted was congratulations. The second thing she says is, when are you going to finish school? So I went back and finished up school. They didn't like that too much. And then after that, I was in the best shape of my life, right? Just crazy. I'd been lifting, running. I wasn't much of a weightlifter, but I was stronger than I'd ever been. I was faster, quicker than I'd ever been, and came back to training camp. We had the mini camp, then afterwards we had another little lift in training. Then we went back on the field because we're young. And then after that, we went and played racquetball that evening when we got back to the complex we lived in. And I pulled a hamstring for the first time in my life. And so at this point, okay, I'm a little guy who ended the season injured. And then I don't come to the off-season program. And then I get injured in the mini camp, right? And so it looks as if this guy is not committed. This guy is not dedicated. And the guy who eventually, when I got back for the real camp, I took my physical, and then I got released as soon as I passed my physical, right? He said, basically, all of those things. That's right.
Now, how do you end up in the CFL at that point?
So there I go on to Tampa Bay.
Because there's one more season in between there.
I go to Tampa Bay for a cup of coffee, and then I go back because I still had 2 classes to finish school, right? So I had 6 hours left, and they were all elective stuff. And so I'm waiting around, maybe you get a call, not really thinking. So I go back to Honeywell, right? They bring me back. I work there, and then I take my final 2 classes in that spring. And that's when I got the call to come to Canada.
And so you're thinking, okay, Canada, wow. Did you know a lot about the CFL at that point? Or what was kind of going through your mind? Because when people look at you now, I think they find it hard to imagine that you're not Canadian.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a Canadian passport now, and you are Canadian, but to me, when I think of Mike Pinball Clemons, I think he's Canadian.
I think of the same thing. Yes, but it was when I first came, I was amazed at how beautiful and metropolitan the city was. Now, that wasn't my first experience, because my first experience was Terminal 1 of the old airport. And I think Terminal 1 of the old airport, Pearson Airport, is probably the most multilingual place on the planet at the time. I experienced more languages in Terminal 1 when I arrived than I experienced in my whole life. And then I heard I heard everything spoken 2 different languages. And, if you can shift back to 1989, there wasn't the same level of information. There wasn't the same transfer of information. Now my team was the Blue Jays, so I should have known a little bit more. Yes. And I saw this language, and I assumed it was French because it was so close to Spanish, but it's nothing like Spanish in terms of the way you pronounce it. Because in Spanish, you say every letter. In French, you don't say any letters, right? And but then there was just people. There were Asian people, there were Indian people, there were Latin, and it was just people from everywhere. It was this explosion, right? And I'm probably hypersensitive because I'm in a new place, right? And
so
then
you're super alert to everything.
So I do that, and then I get in a van, right? They pick me up in a van, and they take me straight from there to the highway in 1989 to Guelph, right? So if you can imagine Terminal 1 and then Guelph, right? A farming community. The school has a wonderful farming tradition, and so going from there, I really So this looked like a little bit more traditional, like what I grew up with, and then the ride into the Rogers Center Sky Dome at the time. It was the first game. It was the first time the retractable.
Now, out in Guelph is your training camp?
Yeah, training camp is in Guelph, right? And then as we're transitioning from Guelph, taking the drive there, and we get to Lakeshore Boulevard, and I see the first thing that struck me is that there are these billboards, if you will, that are in the grass. Right. This is like the neatest thing I've ever seen. Like this city is like so clean. And then the Lakeshore Boulevard, everybody's skating along the lakes, and they've got their boards out, and then you got the waterfront and the pool. Everybody's hanging out down there. It seems so cool and casual. And then we continue to go up, and we get to the dome, and the roof is open. I was like,
this is your first time seeing the dome.
The first time.
And you've seen it on TV with the Blue Jays.
Yeah, no, never. This is the first. The dome is just built.
Brand new.
Dome. The dome is brand new. The facility is brand new. First retractable roof on the planet, and so it was just amazing, that whole experience. And from that point on, I was sold. I was like, this is a place I could live. But I think what was even more, after training camp broke, I had that opportunity. I was staying with a lady named Mom Crow. She's the Argo mom. And you stay with her, right, when you're on the practice roster, right? However, after you make the roster, then you go and you find another place, because Mom doesn't allow company. Well, I was dating my wife, so I didn't need any company or anything like that. So I stayed with Mom. She got me to go. She says, walk up to, it was right by the Dufferin Gate. So she says, walk up to King Street and take the streetcar down to Young Street, and then just get off and walk north, right? And she gave me that instruction, and I'm looking, and it's late in the evening now, and it's 11 o'clock, and stores are still open. I'm like, this is amazing. Because Kansas City is a nice place, but it's a little bit sleepy town, right? And Tampa, again, is growing, right? But again, a little bit of sleepy town, and where I grew up, even smaller still, right? And then where William and Mary is like still in the 1600s, right? Yeah, so that's where people go to tour and get the vision. William and Mary founded in 1693. So all of this stuff stuff around me is so magnified. Everything is so intense. The football is so much better than I thought it was. The first day I came, I have this image of Darrell K. Smith going against Dorn Major, and Dorn Major is a defensive back, and his arms, are
Huge.
just big as anybody I've ever seen, and he's a defensive back, right? And they're going at each other one on one. It's when they got to the game, it was easy, right? Because playing against each other was tougher than anything they experienced in the game. And just seeing that level, I'm hypersensitive to everything, and I fell in love right away.
And I look back at it. I mean, now when you think of the Toronto Argos and you think of CFL, I think of you. And I think a lot of people will, because you were electrifying. You went in there, and for me, when I'd watch Argo games, I wanted the other team to punt the ball. I wanted to see you catch that ball and run it back. And you played with some great players, and we kind of time stamped. This is 89, somewhere in that ballpark, and it's kind of on the tail end or in the midst of Rocket Ishmael. And he's the one that kind of, in our opinion, got paid a lot of money to come to the CFL. And you got a huge, great ownership group that's made up of the Toronto Argos now, with Bruce McNow, Wayne Gretzky, John Candy. What are you thinking walking into here? Did you even know who John Candy was?
Oh my goodness, yes. Everybody knows John Candy. Yeah, just Bruce McNall was a little bit less known to me, right? But you kind of get up quick when he's your owner, right? So you get up to speed pretty quick when I need to learn about this guy, right? So because he had owned a hockey team and that kind of thing, that wasn't really in the forefront of my mind, but the other two guys absolutely, Bruce McNall was a guy who wanted the best for our league, and it didn't work out as planned, but I do believe that he brought our league forward. Wayne Gretzky was everything that he was supposed to be. Right. A lot of times when you meet people that you see and you have an image of, right, been talked about, sometimes, and it's very difficult. It's not like people should meet our expectations. That's not their responsibility. But sometimes people are disappointed because they don't necessarily, and maybe it's just not the interaction, it's not the space, whatever it is, right. But he exceeded every expectation, and if he exceeded it, every expectation, then it may be poetic that John Candy brought those to life, because maybe the warmest person I've ever been around. And he was naturally funny. He didn't try to be funny. Yeah. He was funny, right? And when he was around you, he didn't try to make a joke, right? Those came
You just naturally
right?
laughed.
What he wanted to know is who you were, where you come from. Do you have family? What are your hopes and dreams? Can I do something for you? Can I help you to do something? Can I bridge a gap for it? He really wanted to know about you. He was genuinely concerned about you, and wanted to see you be successful. Interestingly enough, I never saw him end a conversation. I don't know, how this works, but for me, when I was around him, never saw him end a conversation. When he was talking to you, it was like you were the only person there. I mean, there's a guy from Hollywood on one side, and there's a superstar athlete on the other side, and when you were with him, it was just you. And I'm not just talking about me. I mean, everybody he met. He never said goodbye. You either had to end the conversation, right, or someone had to step in and end it for him.
So what's
an amazing human being?
What's maybe a funniest story you could remember of John Candy when you're looking back? Because, like you said, he was a funny guy. But was there ever a situation that you were in where you're like, that's something that I'll always remember that was hilarious? Or because when I think of him, I think of movies and different things. But you dealt with him personally.
when he was funniest is when he was just in the midst and being himself, right? And so it wasn't an event or something, staged or planned or anything like that. It was just him, his persona, and how he could just get on this role that just was,
And was there any like those gut buster laughs where it's like just can't catch your breath, or it was just continuous? Like, well, that's funny.
Yeah, I mean, continuous, and I wish I had Carl Brazley here, because he probably could recount something more poignant here. But it really was. Carl Brazley was a young guy on our team they spent a lot of time together. Carl. That marketing company, very successful in Kentucky, and always had ideas. He was always trying to, he wanted to actually write movies and scripts and these kinds of things. So they would get in these conversations and they get on a roll, and between the two of them going back and forth, Carl would just keep, he'd just keep baiting him on, right? And just kind of give him more ammunition, right? But they were special times. They certainly were.
Now, I did some research, and I watched a lot of videos before you came on of punt returns and different plays and highlight videos. And I don't want to diminish anything that you've done and skipping over it, but one of the most electrifying players to play in the CFL. I noticed the ring that you're wearing there. How many Grey Cups have you won as a player?
Won 3 as a player. One as a coach, and 2 more as an executive. So,
the ring you're wearing.
Yes.
You picked that ring for what reason? What one means the most to you?
I wore this from the day because it's the 100th Grey Cup, and so it really is representative of the magnitude, significance, longevity of the league, and I wasn't on the field on this particular one, right? They gave me the wonderful opportunity to address the team on several occasions, and someone told me that we were 6-0, and including the playoff games in times that when I addressed them before the game, and again, that was because of great coaching and great playing, right? It wasn't according to me, but a real intimate relationship with that team. Several of the players on that team, namely Chad Owens, specifically, being a young guy that I was able to come alongside and mentor and cheer for and watch him break my record. Just a beautiful thing that transpired. I have to say, though, if there is a most special one, it would actually be the 2004 when I became the coach, right? Because
now, for people that don't know, that you were the first Black head coach in the CFL to win a Grey Cup.
Yes, and the Black part is totally incidental, right? Because the reality is that you can't do that by yourself.
It's a team.
It is a team. And I was literally the smallest part of that scenario. So
I have a hard time believing that.
Physically, at least.
Now, someone told me a story about you as a coach. And for those that know you, you don't swear, or very rarely. Tell me the time where you had to, or you felt that you needed to.
Well, again, there were 2 times, and the first word I said was the Beaver Dam, and the second time, was it the same, or was it? I don't know if it was something different, but both times I believe there were the more polite
swear words,
right? But I said it for emphasis, right?
Now, this is a shock to everyone that's sitting there listening to you.
Yeah. So, I said it, because, my job is to respect you and to treat you like men, right? That's why I don't swear, right? Because I respect you and who you are. I respect you as a person before a player. I respect you as a man. I respect you, many of you, as husbands and dads. And So with that, right, I choose not to swear, right? I don't think it's necessary. It says, but if it's necessary, if I need to, I can say, and then I picked up a chair. And I said, I can say, and throw a chair across the room, and I threw the chair across the room.
What's the look on everyone's face in the room? Did you shock yourself?
I got their attention. Right? No, I knew that.
You knew what you were going to do.
Knew what I was going to do, and but it's just kind of say, hey, listen, you can have it this way, right? Right. If that's what I'm hired to get the best out of you. Right. That's what my job is to get the best out of you. And there's certain things that I won't compromise on. Right. But I'm willing to stretch the boundaries if I need to. Right. But I don't think it needs to come to this. Right.
Right.
And,
now, you love this league.
I do.
You love the Argos. You love the CFL.
Yes.
It's got a special place in your heart.
Yes.
In regards to being Canadian, I know a lot of people, you're very active in the community. You have a lot of different things that mean a lot to you. Is there ever a place in your heart in politics?
That's something that's been talked about quite a bit. And I have thought about it. It has, it's been something that we've talked about. I love people, and it politics can be mean, insensitive, dispassionate, and so I've had opportunities, and
I'm sure a lot of them
have come close to. I guess the first opportunity happened almost 20 years ago. And I've had several opportunities since, and very, very recent, as recent as the last election, where I actually thought about it, right, and contemplated.
Now, do you have any doubt in your mind that you'd win?
You always have to respect your opponent.
Because I think if I'm sitting there and I'm looking at everything you've done and your passion and your love for the CFL, your love for Canada, the love for the Argos, I'd be hard pressed not to be on your side, knowing that every single thing you've done all out. You go all in, and you're going to represent your people with respect. You're going to represent, and there's just no question in my mind that you'd be the right guy.
Right. Passion shouldn't be excused for execution, though. Right. I believe there are people who are very adept if they get in there, right, for the wrong reason, right, can be unsuccessful, right. So for me, I need to be connected to cause, and so for me, it's not so much that I have that portion of it, right. I know why I want to do it, but
the time has to be right for you.
Yeah, the timing has to be right, and so that is critical to the process.
Now, you said causes, and you have that under. Tell us a little bit about all the things you work on, the stuff that's near and dear to your heart, because I see you everywhere. I see you when you get up and talk. We were at Tristan's event, and after I was like, man, I wish I could do that. I wish I could get up in front of people and have you leave there and be like, yes, I can do this.
Coach, that's what you do every practice.
I do. It's just not on the same. I mean, it's a group of kids and things like that, and you're comfortable doing it, and you motivate those kids to get the most out of them. Right. But I watch you up there, and it's special. You have a gift where people leave there and they're inspired.
Very kind of you to say, but I don't want our audience to be misled, because you, my friend, have a tremendous gift, and it's much more difficult to inspire young people than it is a ready audience of adults, right? Who are there for a cause, who are already engaged in a cause, right? So what you do is much more difficult than what I do, right? And if I can maybe just expound there, for me, I desire what you get, and that is feedback, right? So when you get up and talk, it's great, but I really do desire to have that feedback and be able to kind of understand whether they're getting what you're saying, and they understand the information and something that they can, potentially even use in their own lives. But for me, I have a genuine, I love people. Right. I think that's what life's all about. And so it's not about me and my foundation. Right. It really is about giving. Right. We started the foundation because we found that there are some areas that we'd like to focus in on a little bit more that maybe a lot is not getting all the attention that we think it deserves. Right. So, but outside of our foundation, I do 50 days with different charities that are not our charity. Right. Special Olympics. I've been to the Special Olympics Sports Celebrities Festival every year except one since 1990. And so we also do a couple of other events. I've spoken on the East Coast. I've spoken West for Special Olympics. So just love them and am on. I call it what's called the Champions Network, is a network of athletes and celebrities who are on call for Special Olympics when there are things that are going on. And my man Mark Tewksbury actually is the chair of that group, and we also do quite a bit. Have done quite a bit with Big Brothers over the years. Easter Seals is something we do still do on a yearly basis. The Easter Seals Telethon. My wife actually comes on with that. For most years we are on the Easter Seals Telethon.
Now, has your wife always sang?
She is a songbird. Yes, she has always. She was from a singing family. Okay. Yeah. So, and when she first met me, she said, "Honey, everybody could sing." I says, "No, honey, I can't sing."
We all can't sing.
So I was singing. I understood that I couldn't sing, so I would sing below the radio. Right. I knew the name. She was amazed that I knew the words to every song that came on the radio. I love music, right? But I always sung below. I knew how to sing below the volume, and then one day she heard me sing, and she says, "No, honey, everybody can't sing." She didn't say I couldn't, right? But she said everybody can't, right? So she came to that realization that everybody can, because her whole family, they're amazing. And so they used to sit around, and every Friday evening they would go sit around and sing mostly gospel songs as a family, and the harmony it was just crazy. I remember those days, some of the simple things.
Is your house like that now with three daughters and
not so much.
Any of them sing?
She is the songbird. My youngest daughter has a desire to sing, so she's working at it. My oldest daughter is she probably has the best voice, right? Natural voice. Her and the youngest, right? But she had some natural, but she was a dancer and sort of distracted when that whole sort of thing was going on, and now doesn't have the confidence. But she does have a nice voice, but she just doesn't have the confidence. The little one has the confidence. She might get there. The middle one, she was gifted playing the piano, right? She, her piano teacher, and in saying that, I'm saying she was gifted, but no, could not sing at all. She's just like she's like her dad, right?
So happy birthday in your house is fire.
Yes,
right? Yes. You got piano going, you got wife singing. daughters, everyone.
Yeah.
The confidence level for happy birthday, everyone's got confidence with that. But
yes. So, but they're all extremely talented. We're so blessed and grateful for them, and our house is musical, if you will.
And that's my wife's in love with your wife in terms of she got up there and sang at an event we were at, and she's like, "That's such a talented family." And she said the same. I wish I could sing. She still thinks she could sing, but I tell her she can. She sings below too.
Most of it's just repetition, right?
Yeah,
So
I definitely can't
yes.
sing. I try.
Yes.
I try. Now, you have a book. How was it to sit down and write your book and kind of take all those thoughts out of your head of what's going to end up in here?
For me, that was they made it easy.
Was it just
conceptually strenuous, right? And the reason is I don't think of my story as that important, right? And I was like, nobody's gonna want it. So my best buddy, Dorn Major, who unfortunately has passed now, he played with me. He was in my wedding. And my best friend here in Canada, he and another buddy, Lloyd Exeter, he introduced me to Lloyd. They were partners, and Lloyd still does a lot of things. He was going down doing something with LL Cool J this weekend, and so still works with a lot of people, helping them to bring to life what it is in them. And so the two of those guys, obviously both very convincing guys, convinced me that I should do this. And the selling point was my mom hasn't had the same experience, the same level of enjoyment in my career, because she's home back in Florida, working, doing.
Did she get up here a lot for games?
Yes, she did. So she did. She would come up a couple of times every year.
Now, I saw in one video, and I don't know, I think it was your mom, but you ran back 2 touchdowns back to back, and you gave the football away.
Yeah.
Was that to your mother?
So that was at the time my mom got the first ball. My little sister got the second ball. And then the third touchdown got called back.
Yeah.
Right. And then I scored another one. And lucky thing, because my wife was the other one.
She was going to be left out. She would have been singing all the way home.
Yes. So it was a game where we, again, I just want to salute, all those guys. The big guys are the guys that really make the difference, right? They are the ones who exert the most effort, that are doing the most on every play, and we guys that run with the ball are the ones who get all the credit when they do the majority of the work. We get all the credit. So just want to send a big shout out to all our big boys. Yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
Now back to the book. You're trying to get these thoughts out.
Yeah. So if I can say, the reason that I wrote the book is I thought that it would give my mom some satisfaction and enjoyment. I didn't necessarily think that, I wanted to write a book, that I was worthy to write a book, that, all those kinds of things, right? I battled with that. But what I didn't battle with is, if I do this, I can give my mom the credit she deserves, right? And so where everybody else is, I run a touchdown, don't give her the credit necessarily because they don't see her. Right. But she's the reason. She I still had to follow through. I still had to do things, but she sacrificed more than me for me to sit in this seat today.
Right. Now, does she have, when you go see her, does she have those copies in the living room now? And my wife would have 45 of those books in every room. Yeah. Like, my son wrote a book.
Yeah, so there's, there are pictures and different reflections around the room, but we believe in modesty, and
you're very modest.
She does, so if she does have them out, she knows that not to have them out when
you're there.
Yes.
She puts them away.
Yes.
Now, in your mind, who is besides yourself, who's the best player to ever play in the CFL?
There's no besides me, right? I'm not that guy, right? The best guy ever and it's the same thing every time. The one guy that I thought was closer than people would give him credit for is Matt Dunnigan. Matt was a really special player. He had several injuries and that kind of thing that didn't maybe allow him to have all the other things, but he was a really special player. The guy who has the numbers and was more talented, right, is Damon Allen, right? Just didn't have the same intensity, right? Things I think came a little bit more natural, right? And to Damon, special arm, Major League Baseball arm, potentially, right? Ran for over 11,000 yards, right? Just phenomenal athlete, right. And his numbers are the most staggering, right? But Doug Flutie is the best player, right? And he just had another intangible where, I've not seen someone who, it is that there are some guys, out there in other leagues, right? It from a leadership perspective, a team being number one year after year after year, if you go to your sport, is LeBron like or Jordan like or Bird like, Kobe. Magic like, if you would stay in our sport, down in the U.S., it would be Brady and potentially Manning, right? Those guys who have the ability to elevate their teams year after year after year. Damon won 4 championships, I believe, and was the MVP, I believe, in all of them, right? But there were gaps in between, right? So he would be very close, but Flutie is the guy. He is when we know how to do it, right? We're too old to get it done, right? And he's one of those rare guys, right, where that great understanding. He had such a wonderful understanding of the game when he went in, and he worked hard at it, right? He would study hard. I remember one game, we came back, we got back late. We got back at like 1 a.m, and someone was supposed to leave a key at the facility for him. So we all went home to go to sleep, right? He goes to facility's closed. He climbs through the window, right, with his game film so that he could watch tape and go over and be able to, have input in the morning when the rest of us slugs get there. But it is that unique drive. When you have that unique talent, when that special talent comes, right, it only comes every once in a while. And when you combine the special talent with that uncanny sense of understanding, right? They used to call them, kind of refer to them as the natural talents, right? The natural and all of that. And I think natural isn't so natural because you have to work at it, but they do have, there's some instinctive, a little bit something that's different. But when that unique talent, that unique special talent that doesn't come around very well, it unites with a guy who elevates themselves intellectually as well. I think the venerable Vince Lombardi suggested that when that speech, What It Takes to Be Number One. My favorite part is he says when a football player goes out to ply his trade, he got to play from the soles of his feet right up to his head. He says, now some players play with their head, and that's a good thing because you have to be smart to be successful in any business. He says, but more importantly, you have to play with your heart, with every fiber of your body. And now here's the real magic. He says, if you're ever lucky enough to find a player with a great head and a great heart, he'll never come off the field in second place, right? So he had that head and heart with that natural talent, that unique, that special thing that only comes around once in a while.
That's good, because I mean, you look back at when I was growing up, and I think the Calgary Edmonton matchups were always, because
Yes.
I lived in Calgary, so paying attention to that, and BC Lions would always pop in there.
That's right.
There was a lot of great players that have played in the CFL. Is Flutie we said the best CFL player? Is he the best player to leave the CFL and go to the NFL as well? In your mind?
Yeah. That's a tougher one, right? Because there's a guy named Joe Theismann, right, who has to enter that conversation. And so while, yes, he was a Pro Bowler, yes, I think if we just look from the outside, and the challenge with this is we always look at the special positions, right? Because there are, the defensive end who plays in Miami now, who played in British Columbia, who's been there for several years. Call his name for me. Cameron Wake, right? He's an example of a guy who's been, he's been perennially, he's been a Pro Bowl player there for several years, right? And when we think of the defensive player or the offensive lineman or the other different players. But if we're talking off the top of our head, I would say that Joe Theismann would have to sneak in front of Doug. And, there are some other guys who've gone down and had some pretty good success.
I made a little list of some guys. They're basically, Joe Theismann was on that list.
Yes.
Who else was there? There's Warren Moon. Andre Rison came back up here even.
Did I not say Warren Moon?
I don't know if you did. I think you Matt Dunnigan.
Yeah. When you start to talk about this list, you embarrass yourself, right? Because there's so many great players.
There really is.
If you don't think and process this beforehand and kind of write some things down, you end up leaving Warren Moon off the list, right?
And that's I think that's my point, because you even go and you say, okay, the quarterback, a lot of attention, wide receivers, a lot of attention, running backs, a lot of attention, but a guy like Mike Vanderjagt, awesome career,
potentially Hall of Famer.
Absolutely. Yes. And you start to look at going into some of the other players, even, Joe Theismann. I don't think a lot of people know Joe Theismann played in the CFL.
Yeah, this is true.
And so you look at it as it would be easy to leave. When I looked at Andre Rison playing in the NFL, and I remember lightly him playing in the CFL, but when I think of Andre Rison, I think of, TLC and Left Eye, and so it's, for me, the CFL has been amazing. And we were talking a little bit before where I've had basketball players that are now playing in the CFL, and it's highly, I think, undervalued league when you look on a whole. I was down in the States and I turned on ESPN and there's CFL games on. And I was like, hold on, they really do this down here? And I had to ask, because I never pictured it being anything outside of Canada. And it's competitive. It's a gem that we have here that we got to keep going.
Yeah, no question about it. And the level of play and the interchangeability, between guys, I think people would be surprised, right? And they're continually surprised. And the latest one is Johnny Football, and we certainly wish him the best. And hopefully we can, one day ask the question: is he one of the greatest CFL players? Right
now, what are your thoughts on that? Because I met him back when he was still in college, and I ran an event with Nico from OVO and Drake OVO Bounce Tournament, and he came up, and he was still in college at the time, and I remember introducing him to some people. They're like, "No, that's not him," and I've cheered for him ever since, through thick or thin, and I know he has what it takes, and I know he's just got to get some things figured out. And I actually tuned in the other night to say, okay, here's his chance. And I still see something there. I obviously do. But what's your take on him?
I think the other night we should have been saying here's his start, not his chance, right?
Yeah.
His really chance is
It's the
over
beginning.
time, right? So if Doug Flutie only played one game, right, we'd have looked at him as a guy. Oh, he came up here, yeah, the league overwhelmed him. He couldn't do it, right? And so with Johnny Football, I can't analyze him because I don't have enough background on him. What I see from him is a guy who is extremely has a high football IQ, has some wonderful instincts, seems to have some great leadership abilities as well. The guys in Hamilton really seem to think that he was a really good guy and part of the team, and it's hard to do that when you're a backup, especially when people may have bigger expectations of you.
And preconceived notions of him or what he is coming in as well.
That's right. And so as they began to think, oh, when he talks to all his buddies back home, you should be starting, you should be the guy, what's happening, and when you can still maintain your composure and do that. And so really have enjoyed watching his him being himself, Johnny being Johnny, and the lack of stories is probably the best story.
Absolutely,
right?
at this point.
And you see some very natural things in him. And with Doug, there were times, he was running around that first year and you say, my goodness, wow, you can see he's a good athlete, but will he ever learn this game? And the next year he's the MVP. Yeah. So it can happen that fast. Too. Yeah. So so he is I think that level player. I don't think he and Doug mirror each other as much as people say. As you get down to the details of them and who they are and what they do, I don't think they. I think he's a little bit. He has that Doug Flutie magic. He's got a little bit of that magic in him, and I think that's where they mirror most. But their games are a little bit different, and hopefully he'll find his stride.
So hopefully it's not a conflict of interest. My next question, but if you're the head coach of the Toronto Argonauts right now,
yes, are
you going to war with Johnny Manziel as your quarterback, knowing you're okay for a couple of years and not going to get fired through the learning curve?
I am actually going to go to war with our new lawyer, right? It's McLeod Bethel Thompson, right? So that's our new law group, but McLeod Bethel, yeah. So anyway, he just the young man played a great game, and I think he is a young guy. We have another guy in James Franklin, so I have to respect my guys.
Absolutely,
and say that is our direction. If I'm with the Toronto Argonauts,
right.
if I'm with the Montreal Alouettes right now,
and I didn't want to go there, but
so if I am the head coach of the Montreal Alouettes, I am comfortable to say that the rest of this season will be built around his growth and development. I can't say that he's going to be the guy for years to come, right? I can see that he has the talent and ability to grow into something that's really special, and so I would. Even though I the kid that's behind him, I really do. He shows some redeeming qualities as well. But this is I believe. He would be my guy unless something drastic changed.
Now we're talking about the CFL. We're talking about Johnny Manziel. There's been some other high-profile people that didn't go off to the NFL or whatnot, but came to the CFL or played in the CFL. So we talked a little bit. I don't know if a lot of people know that The Rock Spent some time in the CFL as well.
Yes, The Rock played at the University of Miami, the Hurricanes, the U, as they call it, and as I understand, it was an excellent football player. He didn't actually make the active roster. He made what I think is called the practice squad, and so The Rock was making $500 a week and getting free room and board, right?
What a difference from today,
yes,
right?
That's right, so that passion, though, it really does show that passion for sport and what we do, that dedication, that commitment. Is very transferable to the workplace, whatever
Absolutely.
that workplace might be. So many have gone into the entertainment sector, whether it's something film like being The Rock. We have guys who've actually become musicians,
Mm-hmm.
right? Fewer still that have gotten on the stage and gotten in front of the mic. Not very many.
You led me into another one, which Bob Marley's son played in the CFL as well for, I think, Ottawa.
Yes. So, and again, around those transferable skills, a guy who's come from a family tradition, that is music, and did have a successful stint here in the CFL. And what does he do now? Do you know?
I'm not actually sure. I remember going down to some Argo games and seeing him, and I was always like, no, there's no way that's Bob Marley's son. But I actually researched it a little bit and found out that it was. So it was pretty neat, because it's just, you obviously listen to Bob Marley and think, oh, CFL, okay, and he's in here. So it's interesting. I'm going to take a little, not a break, but something that we do in here, kind of look at our kicks cam. And when you and I talked on the phone, I said, make sure you wear some shoes that have a story with it. And I said, make sure they weren't Adidas. And you said, oh, that's a sponsor. But we're going to take a look at, there's your shoes on the screen there.
Yes.
And tell me a little story about these shoes and why you chose to wear these today.
Well, these shoes specifically represent a stage in my life, right? And as you begin to sort of get a little bit more comfortable, my mom married my stepdad when I was 14 years old, and he was always there alongside as a little bit of a support, and so he, from time to time, would give me a few dollars, right? And my big thing, there was a local sports store, right? And I'd go to that local sports store to buy the new Converse, right? And I think I remember them being around $13, $14, something like that. And getting those new Converse was one of those one of those simple joys, I would say, right? And sort of having, feeling like, you're in a family, and, you are supported academically, you're supported athletically, and you get a chance to maybe enjoy, some of these other things, and a pair of tennis shoes, made me feel like it was my birthday, right? And so it's just one of those simple joys in life, and so that's what the old cons remind me of.
That's good. It's as you get older, you really start to value those simple joys. Because I sat here and I'm thinking, what are the things that kind of do the same thing for me? And it's new socks, fresh shoes,
yes,
and clean bed sheets that are cold when you get in.
Oh,
and it's like those are kind of
yes.
like, those are your comfort zone.
Yes,
and it's and maybe brand new underwear too.
Yes, all right.
But it's kind of like those are your joys. Well, I'm gonna kind of take us into a section here that we call the 30-second shot clock.
Okay.
And I'm gonna fire off some questions to you, kind of rapid fire. And just give it a quick answer. We're going to put really a 30-second shot clock up there and see how far you get through.
Okay.
And they're just kind of common questions, really easy. The first thing that comes to your head. All right. So, Mark, you ready? You give us a countdown here?
All right, 3, 2, 1.
All right. Your favorite meal?
Chicken.
Favorite drink?
Water.
Favorite color?
Blue.
Shoe size?
9.
Jordan or Nike?
Jordan.
Favorite NBA player?
That's hard.
Favorite
DeRozan.
wherever he is. Favorite CFL team?
Argos.
Worst food ever?
Ooh, I love it now though. Broccoli. I'm in it.
There you go. Best song out right now. There we go. We're gonna keep going. We'll keep her going just to see. But favorite song out right now? Something that you get in the car and say, I want to listen to that.
Yeah, I'm still the old R&B guy. So Usher crushes it for me.
You know what's funny is we put on some Usher songs for the kids on a road trip, and we got to a restaurant and they were all like, "Hey, put that Usher song back on," because they all want to sing to it. They all think they can sing. Yeah. Anytime Usher's on, everyone thinks they can sing. Favorite dream vacation spot?
Hawaii.
Beyonce or Rihanna?
B-Day.
Nikki or Cardi?
I heard of both of them.
Not picky. Yeah. Range Rover or Lamborghini?
Range.
Snickers or Mars?
Snickers.
And then this is more of a U.S. Chick-fil-A or Bojangles? Have you had
Chick-fil-A.
both? Chick-fil-A is coming to Canada.
Chick-fil-A, baby. Yes.
I think we've been kind of caught. Mm-hmm. It's funny because I'm like, man, when you go to Chick-fil-A, they make you feel special.
Yes.
They when you drive up to the window and they come up to the door and they're talking to you, I'm like, man, I can't picture a Chick-fil-A in Canada working with that hospitality that you get when you go down south to Atlanta or like, I'm excited about Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
Something you do when you're going to. I really appreciate you coming on. This was something that I really look forward to from the time that Jarrell said, hey, we could get Pinball to come on the show. And I've been excited about it since then. And you're such a humble guy. And, I hold you in such high regard in regards to everything that you do for the community. I know you don't want to take credit for those things, but you help so many lives, inspire so many people. And, we truly have a gem in you and Toronto, Canada, the CFL, the Argos. Very special person, and we value you.
Well, I thank you, Coach, and I would like maybe just 60 seconds to tell people what we do with the foundation.
Absolutely.
And so we've built over 200 classrooms in developing countries. We've done some orphanages, water projects, and different things internationally. But we brought our attention back locally now. We're still doing some of those things, which include building a fully sustainable community in Kenya right now, which is a $1 million commitment over 5 years, and we're about halfway through that process. But we here locally, though, our goal is to take young people from the margins to mainstream, or from community to career. So if you meet a young person who is marginalized, they're generally either in a shelter, in a marginalized community, right, or in care. Mm-hmm. So we have programs that work with those three. So we have a shelter that we work with called Youth Without Shelter. We have.
And where's that at?
So that is in Toronto here, sort of. I guess it's Rexdale area, what we call, I think. And so we actually also have a group of young people that we work with in the YACE program, which is in Jane and Finch.
And that's a great program. They do a lot of great things, and we obviously play against them and stuff, but they're pretty instrumental in that community as well. So I think you guys working with them is huge.
So the three subsets of kids then are that it's kids in community, kids in care, which we have a school called the Ambassador School, right? And then we have the shelter, Youth Without Shelter. And those three sets of kids we try to bring through three programs down here. One is a trades program called Hammerheads. 392 young people have gone through the program. All 392 have jobs. Another is called Empower.
And what do they do in that?
So there they learn a trade, right? And so they get a job on the other side, gainfully employed. the program is 12 weeks. It's like a boot camp. And when they come out of it, they go straight into a job.
And do people have to apply to get into that program,
Yes,
or are they selected?
Yes, there is a process that you have to go through, right? But all of our kids are eligible for the program, for the process. They have to actually go through and do all the things that are necessary to become one of the recipients, right? But all of them have the opportunity to go through these programs, right? So one trades and one IT program, and when they finish that program, they're going into jobs with people like KPMG and RBC, right? So, many times the average household income is generally around $40,000, and they are starting at that being in their early 20s, they're doubling their household income when they go into that kind of job, right?
Absolutely.
So when we look at the trades program, they have to go through to become certified as full-fledged journey persons. So it takes a while, but they are played well right from the beginning, right?
And they're placed with different companies in those fields?
Yeah, that's right. So they are placed in the trades fields with people, so they come out with a job on the other side. And two of the young men who became full-fledged journey persons last year made $92,000 and $96,000 in their first year as full-fledged journey persons. So making real dollars, real salaries. And so that's where we are, is we want real opportunity. Also work with George Brown College for those who are looking at furthering education, because they have a great wraparound approach. We have some other programs now that people are coming to us with. The Peel Police has a recruiter who is looking for young people that we support, and then there are a couple of other programs we're looking at developing. One is truck driving, and they don't require a high school diploma. All of our kids, might not have a high school equivalency or high school diploma, and so we're continuing to work to give marginalized youth real opportunities in community, trying to give a hand up, not a handout, right? We want them to be able to be independent. Yes, so that work for it, absolutely, but we also want them to have that chance to be independent and live the kind of life they desire.
Absolutely. Do you sleep? There's a lot. I mean,
yeah, I'd say sleep is overrated.
It's overrated at this point.
Yes, I can sleep when I'm dead. Yeah,
we're all gonna.
Yeah,
but it's amazing what you're doing, and when you sit there and you think of all of these people that you've touched, that you've helped, it's just amazing that when you sit there and you say, hey, they're already placed with this and they have this, it's a lot of mirroring of your upbringing, and you talked earlier about going off to college and really already having something in place post that. Is you're really mirroring a lot of what you had in place, knowing that there was some comfort in that with a lot of other people now, and giving them the same opportunities. I don't know whether you look at it like that, but
just regifting.
It is.
Yes,
it is.
But I had to receive it before I could regift it. Right?
And we all appreciate it.
Yes.
We truly do. And if we could ever be of assistance to you in anything that we do, we're here for you as well. So we truly appreciate you, and I'd love to have you back on again and talk more, maybe even bring some of the people that have gone through some of the programs to tell their story to the younger audience that might be watching as well.
That's amazing. That's a deal, Coach. Thank you.
Absolutely,
okay.
and thank you very much.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
You're amazing. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.